Hello, and welcome to another episode of Adamo Baseball, where I'm your host, Adamo. And this is going to be my first episode of the 2021 season. I've done a couple episodes prior to, but I haven't done anything for the season itself. So while there are a couple issues going on in baseball right now that I wish to cover, I need to do more research on those before I really get kicked off for the season. However, for the record, I am pre-recording this, so things could be changing between now and February 27th when I officially release this episode. Today is February 11th. So don't be surprised if there's more free agency moves. I mean, last night, Andrew Benintendi became a Royal. Poor guy. But as of right now, I'm going to be doing an episode where I break down the Baltimore Orioles. I'm not going to make you wait on this. I think that they're going to finish fourth in the division for the American League East. Not because... okay, so their competition isn't necessarily as strong this year as it was last year. I still think that the Red Sox are reeling. And I think Tampa Bay sold off all of its talent. They basically just had a firing sale because they're broke. And then I think Toronto actually has gotten better. And much as it hurts me to say this, the Yankees are the best team in the American League East. It's painful, but it's true. They are the best team in the American League East. So I might as well go ahead and give my American League East prediction, because that's the one division where I think I know how it's going to pan out. The Yankees are going to win the division. The Blue Jays are going to get a wild card spot. Last year they got a wild card spot, but only because of the expanded playoff rules. But this year I think it's going to be because they're actually better and not because they're the 8th best team in the American League. Third, I think will probably be the Red Sox, because while yes, they are reeling, they do still have some talent, and Alex Cora got rehired, and he knows how to make a winner. I'm not going to get into the scandal right now. I'll leave that for the Red Sox episode when I do that one. Then fourth will be the Orioles, because while I do see talent on their roster, I think a lot of it's just raw, and they still need to work on their pitching staff a lot. And then I think the Rays go from losing the World Series last year, winning the American League pennant for the first time since '08, to World Series hangover. I really do think they'll finish last in the American League East this year, because their talent is gone. So I think that's an effective breakdown of why I think the Orioles will finish where they do in the American League East. I'm going to go ahead and do a breakdown of their lineup, at least of what I know of the players themselves. I do think that they are better than they were a year ago. They're certainly better than they were the 2 years prior to. 2016, they make the playoffs as a wild card team. 2017, they go backwards. 2018, they set a franchise record for most losses in a season at 115. 2019, they finished with 107, which was a positive. And then 2020, I don't even know what their record was, but it doesn't really matter since it was a 60-game season due to ye old virus shortening it down. Regardless, it was an improvement, and they showed promise. If for no other reason than for the first time since 2016, they didn't finish last. The Red Sox did. The Orioles finished fourth. And their offense looked a lot better than it had in years past. So I want to, as I did last year, I'm going to start with the lineup just to get a good feel for it. Leading off, Austin Hayes. I've seen this guy play several times at Camden Yards. I'm not going to be able to watch as many Orioles games from the stands this season as I did 2 years ago. I do think that the stadiums will open up to fans at some point this year, but I live a lot farther away from Camden Yards this year than I did last year and the year before that, so it's not nearly as practical. Plus, I got a new sleep schedule, but that's a completely different thing. Back on track, I did see Austin Hayes play. He does play pretty good center field. He's not the greatest center fielder in baseball. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he knows how to cover, and he's a solid hitter. He's not the best hitter you'll ever find. He's a faster guy, so you may see him try and steal some bases this year. And I am a believer in Brandon Hyde, so I think that Austin Hayes can succeed in the leadoff role, and I think he's going to play good center field. Don't be surprised if he actually has not necessarily a breakout year, but a standout year. I would like to see that, but I think that that's a very strong possibility. Number 2, DJ Stewart out in left field. I looked at his stats a little bit, and he doesn't have a lot of at-bats. Hasn't played in a lot of games. So really, what was there didn't look bad. I want to say he was like a 260 average hitter, which is about what you want. You'd like him to have a bit more power, but he looks like he just needs to have some time to actually regularly play. Then we can get an actual assessment of how he plays at the major league level. Admittedly, I need to look at some of these guys' minor league stats more so that I can see, just how it was for them coming up. But frankly, I don't really have a lot of time to do that kind of thing. Admittedly, I need to fix that, but that's a different issue. I have hope for DJ Stewart. I am ever the optimist, and I think that he could be good. I don't think he's going to be JD Martinez, but he could be good. Number 3 in the lineup, Anthony Santander in right field. Usually your right fielders don't put it out of the park very much. But again, I did see him play in Camden Yards a couple of years ago quite a bit. Kind of in the same vein as Austin Hayes. Not the best hitter in the world, but he'll get you there. It's the whole point to your right fielder. You don't expect them to be Ty Cobb at every single at-bat. You want them to hit. And then I'd like to see some more power. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. Number 4, one of my favorite players, if he can cut his strikeouts in half, Trey Mancini. So RotoChamp, the source I'm using to do the projected lineup, they have him listed as a designated hitter. He's played a lot of left and right field throughout his career, but apparently this season they have him set as a DH. If he can hit to his fullest potential, because he's got power, like he'll get you 30 to 35 home runs a season. He'll get you over 100 RBIs if you got the guys on base. So yeah, if Austin Hayes, J.D. Stewart, and Anthony Santander can regularly get on base, then yeah, Trey Mancini's going to put him in. Not every at-bat. I mean, best baseball players in the league, fail 7 out of 10 at-bats. But as a rule, Trey Mancini should be able to get him across the plate. He does have that kind of power. If he cuts his strikeouts in half. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're going to go down swinging. I respect that. But he needs to be better at not striking out. Because if he cuts his strikeouts in half, his batting average is 300 plus every single year. Without a doubt. And you're talking about him for a possible triple crown. Look, there's been one triple crown hit since 1967. And that was Miggy back in 2012. But if Trey Mancini can cut his strikeouts in half, we're having that discussion. I wholeheartedly believe that. Number 5, Chance Sisco. He's listed as the catcher. I don't know who this guy is. Personally, I think that he's more just a stand-in until Adley Rutschman can make it to the bigs. So, Rutschman was the number 1 overall pick 2 years ago in the Orioles organization out of Oregon State. And he was like a really big deal. I mean, I don't typically pay attention to the minor leagues that much. I do a little bit, but not much. But I knew who this guy was. And the only reason why he's not in the league right now is because of the coronavirus. Minor league baseball was shut down entirely last year with no chance of reopening. So all those players basically had their lives put on hold for a year. In fact, I saw a Twitter account where they were actually fundraising for minor league baseball players because they get paid so little. Rutschman, whenever he gets up into the league, he actually will fill that 5 hole as a catcher, which is very rare. And apparently, he actually does know how to catch and make a pitching staff better. Well, we usually look at the pitchers themselves. The catcher is just as important, because if they don't know how to catch, then there's no point. So, yeah, whenever Adley gets up to the bigs, he's going to be taking over the catcher spot. Don't be surprised if it's this year. Don't be surprised if in June we're talking about him for a potential Rookie of the Year. I know that that's a big statement, but I'm willing to make it. Number 6, Ryan Mountcastle. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that his ancestors lived in a castle on a mountain, or wanted to. He's listed as primarily a first baseman or an outfielder. Again, I don't know anything about this guy. Typically, your first basemen are power hitters because while, yes, they do need to be able to make defensive plays, they're not on the team for defense. They're on the team for power. You want them to hit big. So, if Ryan Mountcastle is a big hitter, then he will be a great replacement for Chris Davis. Because I'm looking at the roster, I don't see Chris Davis's name anywhere. You know, the one who hit 59 home runs a few years ago. And that Chris Davis, I don't know. I don't know if he's even still playing baseball. Of what I've seen and heard, he's a great player. He's got, or like, he was a good person. He was the kind of person that you want, but his decline was so hard. And it looks like Ryan Mountcastle either A, is his replacement, or B, may just be a bridge player until they have a better first baseman. Not necessarily as a position player, but as a hitter. Because a lot of Chris Davis's offense has been missing for the last several years, which is part of where their decline has come from. Number 7, this is a name I recognize. And both as a shortstop or a second baseman, because he's listed as both, but it looks like he's going to be playing short. And as a hitter in the 7 hole, you don't expect him to hit much. You more expect him to just be there for defensive purposes, because let's face it, more ground balls get hit to shortstop than any other position. Look it up. Freddie Galvis. If I'm not mistaken, he's mostly known for being a Ranger. If I'm not mistaken, he was a part of that early 2000s Texas Rangers team that was really good. You know, I don't know that he was there whenever they went to the World Series and lost it 2 straight years, but I think he was there not long after when they were still good, just not necessarily at that level. I think Freddie Galvis will be a good shortstop. He's already got a reputation. I've never heard of him getting in trouble. Of course, that could just be me not watching ESPN enough, but I don't recall anyone complaining about him. So I think he's more just a role player, which shortstop, there's nothing wrong with that. Number 8, here's a guy that I think is truly underrated. Rio Ruiz. He's a third baseman for the Orioles. Doesn't commit a lot of errors. Kind of in the same vein as Trey Mancini. He needs to cut his strikeouts in half. But if he cuts his strikeouts in half, he's good. Like, in the same vein as Trey Mancini, Rio Ruiz can put it out 30 plus times a year. I'm not making that up. Like, he hits 30 plus home runs a season with a full season. 2020, I'm not using any of those stats. I just want to make that clear. I did not look up a single player's stats specifically for 2020 because I know statisticians, specifically in exec boxes in baseball stadiums, they love to use season progression so that they know where a player is going, and to an extent it works, not always, because it doesn't factor in player psychology, but I'm not using 2020, period, because it's a bad sample. Now, did the 2 best teams in baseball square off in the World Series last year? Yes. But overall, it was a bad sample. So, like, I didn't look up Rio Ruiz's stats from last year. It doesn't matter. I've seen the guy play. I've seen the guy hit. He can hit a home run on any given night off of most any pitcher. Not all of them, but most of them. I mean, if you're... maybe Bryce Harper could hit a home run off of anybody, but I don't know that there's a player that could hit a home run off of any given player or off of any given pitcher in baseball. Rio Ruiz, he's one that I would want to see hit probably closer to 6 if he plays to his full potential. Number 9, it's not surprising it's the second baseman here, Yolmer Sanchez. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry, and I wouldn't be surprised. But Yolmer Sanchez, I've never heard of him. I know that, according to this, he's the second baseman for the Baltimore Orioles, and if he is good, cool story. I would love to see him succeed. But then again, I kind of just want to watch the guy play because I don't know anything about the guy. So, now, the lineup itself, as a whole, 1 through 9, I think there's a lot of possibility. There's a couple of places where I see 30-plus home runs. Their offense was improved last year from years past. I did mention I'm not using 2020 stats as, for trends and whatnot. But as a whole, a good portion of the season they did have like a net positive runs versus runs allowed. Did they finish that way? No. But it wasn't because of a lack of offense. And over the last few years, they have gotten better hitting the ball. And now that they don't have that gaping hole at first base, again, nothing against Chris Davis as a person. Of what I've seen, he's a cool dude, and I don't know him. But his prime is gone. And I think that their offense should be much better this year because they are slated to play a full season, unlike 2020. I think... Alright, so the best teams in baseball usually hit 8 to 850 runs scored. The number one team either flirts with or goes above 900 runs for the season. That's a rule of thumb. I think the Orioles could have between 7 and 750 runs scored for the season. So probably around average. Do I think that they're going to finish 81 and 81? No. Do I think 71 and 91 is in the cards? Yeah, I do.